The film story starts where big monsters have attacked this world. These dangerous-looking monsters hunted humans and started killing them so much so that humans are finished in this world and no one can understand where these monsters came from. Some thought that this was the punishment for their sins. Some thought that the bite of this scorpion or venomous insect spread such an infection in humans that humans became monsters. These are all tales that no one knew the real reason. Anyway, in this town we are shown a survivor, Paul, when he was collecting his needs in the town. Suddenly the sirens start ringing. He runs to save his life passing through the streets. He was surrounded by danger. The sounds of monsters roar and bomb attacks. The world was shaking with noise, and the sky was covered in black smoke. Here Paul, to wait for the danger to go away, goes into an empty house where two little children were crying. Paul adopted them. After this, many years passed and it was shown that the children who were adopted by Paul and grew up with time, they used to help Paul to collect supplies. But before nightfall, they had to come back to the house because until now in this world, monsters used to roam freely at night. Even today, according to his routine in the evening, Paul's son Joseph came home. He put his dog inside the house and closed all the windows and doors of the house, while Paul is waiting for Thomas outside, who is late again today as usual. As soon as Thomas comes, he starts explaining about himself. "Dad, you know how much I like to work on the farm." It gets late while leaving from there. These farms where Thomas used to work were actually of his neighbors. Paul warns him here that if he is late next time, he will not be allowed to leave the boundary. These people check the doors and windows before eating, whether they are locked properly or not. After that, they had a great dinner at night. And right in the middle of the dinner, Joseph makes fun of going to Thomas's farm, because he knew that Thomas liked his neighbor Rose. As soon as he made fun of Joseph, he got so angry that there was a fight between the two. And here, out of anger, Paul just says, "Sit down, you are human, not animals, who fight so badly." Suddenly, Paul notices that his dog was rubbing the ground in a strange way today. He felt at the door as if someone was knocking on it. Thomas and Paul go to check. Then it turns out that the danger with which they had been saving him for so many years, today the same danger was at his door. There were monsters at the door who were trying to enter his house. Paul and Thomas try to close the door tightly so that the creature does not come inside. Here Thomas scolds Joseph. "What are you doing sitting there? Why are you not helping us? Can't you see what a big problem it is?" In response, Joseph says, "No, I was noticing his behavior." He knocked for the first time for 20 seconds, the second time for 10 seconds, and then the last time he knocked once and left. Joseph believed that the creature who knocked for the first 20 seconds was checking the door first. The second time, when he knocked for 10 seconds, he had a lot of power. This was probably his actual attempt to break the door, but when the door did not open in the end, exhausted, he knocked once and left. Paul also hears these words carefully. Anyway, it's morning now. For the time being, the danger was over. Paul goes outside and sees a creature's nails and marks on the door. The whole day passes in work. Joseph notices that Thomas had done a lot of work today, but Joseph did not leave the house all day. When he goes and checks him, Joseph was trying to make a car. When Paul goes inside, he says, "I'm tired of this scary life every day. I want us to run away from here. That's why I was making this. I don't know if it will work or not." After checking this Jeep-like car carefully, he couldn't stop praising Joseph. He didn't know how, but he made a fit car. After making a few changes to Paul's car, it starts. In this happiness, Paul takes them to teach them to drive and sends them to the riverside for a drive. Thomas got angry because he had promised to take Thomas to the farm. Paul says, "Thomas, this work is more important today." Making an angry face, Thomas leaves with Joseph, but his mood was fixed. When Joseph turned his car towards the farm, Thomas happily stops on the farm. He says, "You go wherever you want to go. Just pick me up on the way back." On the other side, we see Paul, who on the door of his house was seeing the marks of the monster's claws with a new stick. He fixes these doors and then, to spend a good time with himself, he goes towards the waterfalls where he meets a mysterious black-colored cave. On the other side, Joseph had also come to the riverside. He ties himself up with a rope and goes inside the huge ship. He had to collect supplies from here. He sees the ship carefully, and as soon as he goes to a compartment and opens the cabins there, a lot of bugs suddenly attack him. His body was completely covered, but still the bugs wanted to bite him somehow. To save his life, Joseph had to get out of here. Thomas was also busy working on the phones, but the work was just an excuse. Here, after working, he meets his friend, sitting next to a tree. They have a good time. Under the tree they were sitting since childhood. While talking, they get sad. because they also couldn't solve this riddle yet. How did this happen to this world? Anyway, now they see that it is going to be evening before the sun sets. They have to go back home. That's why Thomas runs out of the farm, and before leaving, they hug each other. When Paul returns from the waterfall, he worried that their dog was out of the house, while his two sons haven't come home yet. Joseph quickly starts a car and leaves for his return, while Thomas was running fast towards his house, but in the meantime, he gets stuck in a strange hole made on the ground. As soon as Joseph reaches here to pick him up, he does not find Thomas anywhere. Seeing this, he got quite worried. Upon understanding nothing, he goes to his house and tells his dad about everything, how he had left Thomas at the farm, but now he did not find Thomas anywhere. Oh Joseph, what have you done? Okay, for now you relax and go inside. Lock all the windows and doors properly. I am going to look for Thomas with my Dioda. As soon as he left, they left the house. Here we are shown the scene of that pit, in which Thomas was stuck. It was dark all around. Thomas tries to light a fire on a piece of wood and look inside the pit. He was blown up when he saw a strange black hand here. Before this monster attacks Thomas, here Thomas takes out a small knife from his hand and attacks the creature's hand. As soon as he did this, the monsters were angry. That monster comes out of this pit before Thomas goes back, but there was also a very big monster who had badly caught Thomas's face from behind. It was getting difficult for Thomas to breathe, and before he died, here Paul comes to save him. Paul also caught the creature from behind and first frees Thomas from his hand and then hit him badly with his knife. Thank God, Thomas was saved. But now the problem was that it was quite late at night. This time, they were in dense forests, and it was not safe to run towards the house because monsters roamed everywhere at night. They see a tunnel nearby. While walking in this, they reach a strange hole in the ground. Paul thought it would be safe to spend the night here. To protect himself, they also blocked the entrance of this place. They had just closed the entrance when they suddenly heard the monsters roared. As soon as they feel the danger, Paul makes a light with the things he had. Doing this, there was a terrible earthquake in their crack. Their dog barked and tried to tell them that there was a danger. Paul found out that there were monsters right above the hole in the ground, from which he had been escaping for many years. Monsters start covering this hole from the top with mu. It was clear that this place was a trap made by them, in which both Thomas and Paul were trapped. And now these monsters were locking them up here. Paul had no other way to save his life, so to scare the monsters, he pulls out his light from a small hole in the crack, and as soon as he saw it, the monster got angry. He opened the crack, and to come inside the crack to attack them. As soon as he came inside, Paul pulled Thomas out of the hole. And to kill him, Paul used the small things he had with him to make a blast. In which he himself was injured. In the house, Joseph heard the monsters talking, and he was planning to escape from them. He placed his chair right in front of the main door, and tied a rope to the chair. While sitting, he suddenly sleeps, but the monsters were still outside the house. The monster was also watching Joseph from a very small hole in the door. Seeing Joseph sleeping, he removed the wood hung on the door, and looks carefully at Joseph. If he is really asleep or not. You see this, he makes his nail long like a magical wand, took it near his mouth. When Joseph did not react, the monster also understood that he was really sleeping. The monster opened the door and came inside. As soon as he came inside, Joseph pulled the rope tied to his chair. In less than a second, a nail fell from above, and the monster got locked inside. It was actually revealed that Joseph didn't sleep. Whatever happened here was his plan. He puts blanket on this locked monster. It was morning, and there was no whereabouts of the other people. They didn't come back, and he went on his car to find them. While on the other side, we see Thomas, who is busy opening up the entrance of the crack. After that, he somehow brings injured Paul from the crack. Their dog came out. He heard the sound of Joseph's car from far away. He comes to Joseph while running, and he bring him near Thomas and Paul. Seeing Paul injured, Yospe got shocked. These two brothers together put Paul in the car and bring him home. Paul really needed treatment. They were still talking about this, and Thomas looks at a cage here. As soon as he removes the blanket from the cage, there was monster inside it. Joseph tells him to keep it back. This light hurts the monsters. While putting the bandage on Paul, Joseph tells him maybe two monsters came here last night, from which he caught one monster. The monsters are more intelligent than us. He wanted to study about these monsters. Thomas tells him that last night Dad had blasted many monsters in that crack. He got shocked and asked his dad if he really did this, then the monsters will surely come for revenge. Because they are quite intelligent. Thomas found his words nonsense. He wanted to kill this monster kept in his house. He hurriedly opened his cage. While Joseph kept on stopping him while being scared, the monster hid under the bed. Seeing the monster, their dog was barking. Hearing his voice, his behavior suddenly changes. This scared monster suddenly becomes as bold as a tiger. He came toward Joseph and Thomas to attack. To save from his attack, Joseph tries to put him away with a stick. Without wasting a second, Thomas separates his neck with his axe. Finally, he was dead, but Joseph wanted to have a study on him, so he takes this dead monster to his basement. He puts a lot of cuts to study the monster. Still, he couldn't understand what this monster looked like, either like humans or animals. He doesn't understand anything yet. Thomas came to him while working. Actually, he wanted to take Joseph to Rose's house. They had a lot of farms, a fine house around there was a fence. They could remain safe there from the monsters. They could have medicine for Paul. Joseph thought that their neighbors won't help them. On Thomas's insist, they make Paul sit in their car and take him to their house. According to Joseph's words, they refused to help them. By saying that nor they have enough medicines or supplies, that they could make 3 people stay here. The owner of the house, Rose's dad, says if Thomas wants to stay, he can because he used to help them in farming every day. Hearing their words, Joseph returned. Thomas chased him, but he was in anger, and he says bad stuff too. Thomas in anger, "You're the one who brings Dad near to death, go from here." Hearing his words, Thomas gets angry, and once again they have a fight. Thomas was beating Joseph, but when he realized that he was doing wrong, he stood up. Joseph got up and drove his car, and after taking his fainted dad, Paul goes from there. While Thomas left there with the family of Rose, Thomas gets good food to eat, and Rose takes him in her room. Joseph, who was taking Paul, he notices on the way that animals were moving fast. It means that the creatures were moving underground. As he goes near his house, he sees a crack near it. He understood that this crack is made by these monsters. That is, his thinking was quite right. These monsters came here for revenge. He also had to get ready for the war. He takes Paul to a safe place. Then, while collecting his strange things of his house, started planning a new idea. He started closing all the doors and windows of his house. When he was walking, he was getting stuck into the crack made in the ground. Joseph understands that these monsters, while making a tunnel underground through this hole, have reached their home. On the other side, in Rose's house, we see Thomas was checking their kitchen. Rose comes here, and he explains to Rose that he is not a thief. He is worried for his dad, and is finding the medicines for him. Seeing him worried, Rose gives him the medicine. Thomas thanks her and hugs her, and goes out from there with a promise that he will surely return there. Whole conversation was heard by a servant. He came out and pointed a gun at Thomas. He was calling him a thief, but Thomas tries to explain to everyone that Rose has given him the medicine and he didn't steal anything. But no one was ready to hear him. They could even shoot him. But all these servants take Thomas to a bar room and turn on the music there. They have tied Thomas to the ground. A man standing away points his gun at him. They were about to target him before he could shoot. The ground under him breaks and he falls onto the ground. Another man comes to check on him. Meanwhile, a big, strange and black monster came here. Hearing the noise of the monsters, Rose's parents inside also wake up to check what is happening on the other side. When Rose's dad holds a candle and starts to open the door, a creature attacks him. This creature was so dangerous that he couldn't control it. The candle in his hand also fell down. Because of this, the curtains burn. Seeing this light, the monster frees this man and holds Rose's mother to save his wife. Rose's dad holds this monster and pushes him back. Rose's mom gets up and begins to run towards outside to find Rose. But before she could reach ahead, the monster grabbed her and stabbed her in the body and killed her. Rose was hearing these sounds in her room. She didn't know that because of these sounds, both of her parents were killed. As soon as the sound stops, she goes out of her room to check. She saw blood everywhere, and following the blood, she went to her parents' washroom. As soon as she went there, she screamed, because her dead mom was standing in front of her. And that was a huge monster. On the other side of the house, where the servants had tied up Thomas, there was a creature had killed everyone, and now it was heading towards Thomas. Thomas, to save himself, quickly moves his hands and legs with great difficulty, while getting himself released. He was trying to run backwards, but he failed in this attempt because now the monster was right in front of him to kill him. But as time passed, Rose enters here with a gun, and she kills the monster by shooting it. These people were saved from the monster. These people come out running, and Thomas sees that Rose's entire house is burnt. Rose tells him that his parents were also killed. Thomas is saddened to hear this, but as it was not the time for these things in an emergency, these people decide to go to Thomas's house. where on the other side Joseph is still planning to fight the creatures. All the holes that the creatures had made in their house, Joseph had filled those holes with all the furniture of his house. After preparing himself, he greets his unconscious father's head with love, and comes out for this battle with the monsters. Suddenly a small window of his door opens. He looks back in fear, but these were Thomas and Rose. Seeing them, Joseph took a breath of peace. Thomas had come here to support his brother, and Joseph also needed him. Now they were talking about the same thing. Suddenly Paul's voice comes from behind, who had regained consciousness. These two are happy to see him coming to his senses. Thomas had brought medicine for him. They give him the medicine, and here Paul tells them that it's time to fight till the last moment. It was time to fight too. Joseph shares his plan with the other two people here, and these people start collecting all the gas and petrol they have. After throwing petrol and gas cylinders everywhere in the house, they put their old freezer right in the middle of the house. Rose was also closing the remaining windows here. After this, all these small crackers, matches, and such things that could have been set on fire, they spread it in their house, even their dad's cigarettes. All this preparation was done by them. They see that the hole made by the monster they had covered with furniture. Now the furniture was starting to move. That means a monster has come here. And on the other side, in the room where Paul is, a monster has come from his chimney to Paul's room. A monster had come out of the hole here, on which Thomas attacks from behind. But this monster doesn't die, he attacks Thomas on the contrary. And before Thomas dies this time, Thomas attacks his head and kills him. A third monster had attacked Rose here to save her life. She shoots this monster with her gun and kills him. Meanwhile, Paul comes to them, who was soaked in blood, on whom the monster had attacked. But he also succeeded in killing the monster. One by one, a lot of monsters had come here. Paul shoots them with his gun. But despite killing so many monsters, a lot of monsters had come to them. Paul's gun ran out of bullets. Paul kills someone with the back of his gun, so from behind, Rose and Joseph kill these monsters. But the number of monsters was increasing. To save himself this time, Paul tells them to work on their plan. The three of them go and sit in the freezer, which they had brought inside the house, after which Paul sets this house on fire, because of the wood furniture and petrol everywhere. This house was blasted like a bomb. In this blast, a lot of monsters died. The freezer kept moving for a long time, and when it stopped, they thought there would be some peace. They quickly got out of the freezer, and they tried to find Paul, whom they couldn't see there. Here, as soon as Joseph picks up a piece of wood, a monster from below, which was burning at this time, tries to attack him. To save himself, these people come out of the house and start running through the car, but the burning monsters were making themselves into a tire, and were chasing them. Rose was attacking them with her gun, but no bullet had any effect on them. As soon as this monster-made tire comes close to them, Rose attacks them with the back of her gun, and the tire breaks. The monsters fell here and there and died, but they didn't stop driving. After traveling for miles, they saw that the monsters were not chasing them. They were safe. This time, all three of their eyes were on the sky. The stars were shining in the black sky. This was the first time they were seeing this sight, because every night before this sight, these people were locked up in their house. But finally, the monsters were ended. In the morning, when they came back to their house, there was nothing there. These people do the funeral ceremony of Rose and Paul's parents, and decided to take their belongings and go somewhere far. They were sure that they wouldn't have to fight such a war. And this movie ends by showing all three of them together.